Hello, everybody. We are back, nice and late, as usual, on Miami Total Football Radio, the show, as you can see, and hopefully as you can hear, for you podcast listeners, not YouTube viewers or watchers. I have some new equipment that I got on Black Friday / Cyber Monday. New USB mic. So I'm trying it out. Hopefully it sounds good. If not, then I will return it and I will go back to the other microphone, my old school traditional OG microphone. And yes, for those of you that are watching, I am in the spirit, and I am wearing an ugly sweater, a Christmas ugly sweater. And it's actually really cool because you can't see it, you can't appreciate it that well. It's Santa with a cup, and you can hold a drink in here. You can hold a drink in there. So I will be drinking on this week's show thanks to Santa Claus. I'm on the nice and the naughty list. So as you heard and as you can see, Jose Armando joins me. No Andreita Yanes, no Ajisita. She is out sick again, and I can attest to this. I heard the audio. She is sick again. Jose, what are you doing, man? You got to stop taking all the covers. You got to leave some for Andrea when you guys go to bed, because clearly all the air conditioner is getting to her chest and she's getting sick. But how are you, Jose?
Well, it's the Miami weather these days. You know, it's been crazy, but she's doing a lot better. So I don't know if this is our last podcast of the year. Is it? It might be.
I don't know. I don't think so, because
Next week.
Inter
No,
Miami has news every week.
Right. So if we're back, she'll be back for the next spot. But she's doing a lot better. And I'm running all over the place, but I'm good.
So I don't think this will be the last one. We'll definitely have at least one more before the year ends. At least one more. Right. If not 2 or 3 more, but at least one more before the year. This will not be the goodbye.
I've been mistaken several times this week about where we really are in the year. I think, Inter Miami getting knocked out of the playoffs kind of messed everything up. So it feels like we are way past December 7th because Inter Miami got eliminated so long ago. And in my mind, I thought December 7th was actually the end of the year for Inter Miami, although several things have happened. And now it's me thinking, well, this is the last week of the year. Wait, no, we still have 2 more weeks. My birthday's coming up next week, by the way, on Friday.
We have 3 more weeks. Oh, your birthday, so we definitely have to have a pod before next week, because we have to say happy birthday to Jose. Here, an early cheers to Jose Armando for his birthday. But thank you guys, of course, for tuning in here at Miami Total Football Radio, the show. And we've got the comment section already going. Emilio Zuniga Batz, saludos desde Totonicapan, Guatemala. Vamos de Inter Miami. Okay, all right. We've got a bunch of comments here. Francisco Garcia, here we go. Hey, Tank. Hey, Francisco. Okay, the comment section is going through the pleasantries. So we've got a lot to talk about, and lately we've been going very long on the pod. We're going back to an hour 10 minutes. That's it. No, that's my New Year's resolution, and we're starting early. I'm not waiting until 2025. We're doing it. If we have a lot of things to talk about, unless it's something really, really major news, we're tightening up this show. We're trimming the excess fat, and we're running through things much quicker. Even if Andrea, when she returns, if I have to mute you guys, yellow card you guys, red card you guys, kick you out of the show temporarily, like hockey for 3 minutes, and we're gonna do that. We gotta tighten up the show. We gotta keep it in an hour 10. That's my goal. So Jose, we've got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of news items this week. Not a big major one like MLS MVP going to Lionel Messi. We talked about that last week in great detail. Got some feedback on that. But a lot of news, a lot of nuggets. So I don't even know where to begin. Should we start at the beginning of the week? Should we start at the end of the week? I think we should start at the beginning of the week. Let's go chronologically this time, as opposed to more newsy. But we will touch on everything. Everything. And of course, if you're new, old, subscribe, like, share, give a review, a thumbs up, or a thumbs down, whatever you want. But yeah, helps out tremendously. So Jose Armando Cinco, a busy week for Inter Miami. Of course, we start with Lionel Messi, who went with Luis Suarez, and not with Figo, but he went with Luis Suarez, Sergio Busquets, and Jordi Alba to Azerbaijan to do an appearance that I guess they had planned for after the season, or it came about after they were knocked out. But the four of them went to Azerbaijan, took a nice little flight over there, and made their media appearance, I guess. We don't get media
Yeah, they
appearances.
got some,
They do.
especially Messi. He got some criticism over, a visit to a memorial of, political leader, a dictator. Not very savvy when it comes to, Azerbaijan's political landscape, but he did get criticism for that. Um, it was interesting, right? It was rather an interesting visit. Maybe this was planned way, way before.
There they are.
Yeah,
There's los Cuatro
yeah,
Fantásticos in Azerbaijan.
yeah.
Incredible.
I mean, yeah,
Put a
that's
photo.
just that's crazy. And
Photo
I
credit to
just
whoever took that photo.
right, and Messi's always ready. He's always wearing like his gear. He did it on the MVP video as well. So he knows what he's doing. So well, it's there. The one thing that I mean, I don't think that's something that can be criticized because I mean, it's their off time. They're on vacation, so you
They can
can
do
go
whatever they
wherever you
want.
go.
But
Now, whatever they do in the place, and if it has some meaning, whether he visits a place, a memorial that he shouldn't, then that's for it for people to decide. But from our side, from the
the
our
sporting
perspective,
side,
Inter
for el
Miami,
lado
right?
futbolístico, Jose, like I
I
don't
don't
have
think
an opinion.
that's
I don't have an opinion.
yeah.
I honestly don't have an opinion. Like I'm just sharing the news of what Messi did, the whereabouts of what Messi
Mm-hmm.
did for the
Right.
listeners and viewers that care. If you want to find the podcast that goes deep diving into Messi's appearance in Azerbaijan and whether it's a plus, a negative, or somewhere in between, I don't know where that podcast is, but it's not here. So anyway, all right, we'll start with more team stuff. There's your Lionel Messi update with Los Cuatro
Yep.
Fantásticos. Hell of a photo, by the way. Again, shout out to whoever took that picture. All right, Jose, we finally got some news with regards to who's coming, or well, not who's coming, who's leaving and who
Leaving.
is staying. And this was the initial list from Monday. This news dropped on Monday. Inter Miami revealed its list. These are the players with guaranteed contracts or already under contract for 2025. Jose, stop that. Noah Allen, Thomas Aveles, Israel Boatwright, Sergio Busquets, Drake Callender, Leonardo Campana, Benjamin Kremaski, Facundo Farias, Diego Gomez, Julian Gressel, Tyler Hall, David Martinez, Leonel Messi, Santiago Morales, Federico Redondo, David Ruiz, Luis Suarez, Robert Taylor. Now, this next group of players had their options exercised. Leo Afonso, Jordi Alba, Yannick Bright, CJ Dos Santos, Ian Frey, Ryan Saylor, Marcelo Chelo Weigand. Now, the news that more people were really kind of trying to sink their teeth into, who got their options declined. They would be Cole Jensen, Sergi Christoph, Franco Negri, Matias Rojas, Lawson Sunderland, Felipe Valencia, out of contract, Oscar Ustari, loan expired, Nicolas Freire. Now, this is from this screenshot here. If you're watching, if you're listening, well, you're not going to see it, but the screenshot that I'm sharing here at the bottom has a paragraph. This is from Inter Miami. It said the club is in ongoing negotiations with Matias Rojas, option declined, and Oscar Ustari out of contract. Additionally, the club recently announced a new contract for forward Luis Suarez. All right, so a lot to dissect there, a lot to talk about. We'll quickly touch on some of these points. So, Jose, I'll let you begin. What stood out to you there out of that list?
Not much really. Not much because I always take with a grain of salt that list, that first list because, I know how MLS works. I know how, those options that are exercised can very easily mean absolutely nothing. Um Maybe the one situation that I thought could have and maybe it's already sold, but it's Matias Rojas. I believe that he'll be staying with the team, and maybe things are already figured out. So but it is kind of interesting that they list him as they didn't exercise the option. Although the situation with him, remember that it was He had a very weird contract with Inter Miami in the sense that he had options for 2025 and 2026, which is not the norm, to have two options. So obviously that was something
Pretty
that they needed
normal.
but they needed to figure that out because it not for a young player might have that option, but Matias Rojas is already
All
established
players
player.
in MLS have those options, or most players have those options. I mean,
No,
Messi
but it's for
initially had an option, but then disappeared.
but a 1 year option, I would consider that normal. 2 year option, that gives
It
you
happens all the
that's
time, Jose.
it's not an ideal situation for Matias Rojas, and they have to find a way to figure. I'm sure they figured that out already. They just haven't announced it. But if you really think through it, I mean, how can you follow along if you're Matias Rojas at this stage in his career, knowing that you don't know exactly what's going to happen this year? Then end of 2025, the same thing will happen. You're going to wonder where you're going to be playing next year. 2026, again, the same thing will happen. I mean,
But that could be
that doesn't
Jose.
sound right.
This is Major League Soccer. They can get traded in midseason, and they have no say. So
Right, but Matias Rojas he's not going to be okay with that,
I mean,
He's not going
I
to be
mean,
okay.
it's what he
Players
signed
have
up
a
for.
say now. Players have a say.
Not in MLS.
And
Not in
and and
MLS.
and I think especially now this shows that, a deal is in the works because basically Matias Rojas is free to go as of right now. If
Right.
they would have
He could.
exercised the option, then yes, then Matias Rojas
But they don't
needs
want to
to stay
exercise
put.
the option. They didn't exercise the option. Why? For the people that want to know a little bit more about the salary cap, salary budget, they didn't exercise the option because they don't want to bring him back next year on the number he was set to
Right,
receive. They want to
right.
renegotiate the deal. So they do want to bring him back, but at a lower number or at a different number that's structured differently so that the cap hit towards the budget is less than what it would have been. And I know
It's
that's a
going to
lot
be a
of
3 year deal.
I know that's a
I
lot
bet
of
you
capology mumbo jumbo, but that's essentially what's happening. So
it's going to be
I
a
expect
three
him
year
back.
deal. Yeah, it's going to be a 3 year deal. They're going to split it up, the best way possible. I'm assuming, the first year is not going to be that big a year when it comes to his contract in terms of money. The budget hit is not going to be as big because they need money right now to compete in the World Cup, the Club World Cup. So I'm assuming the back end of the contract is going to be very good for Matias.
If he ever gets to see that. Sean Callahan says Rojas would have been a max TAM deal at $1.6 million, I am assuming. Sean Callahan, our resident cap expert. I like this. I like this.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Sean. Jose, so that stood out to you, Matias Rojas. Oscar Ustari also apparently in negotiations. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot for me. Nicolas Freire, we talked about it during the course of the season. We didn't expect him back because they'd have to invest in bringing him over here because he was on loan. They'd have to probably pay a transfer fee. And you can't really count on him, given his injury history, going into next year as to be your starter, right? And in a league where you have salary constraints, are you really going to invest a transfer fee for a third or fourth option at center back that is questionable in terms of his availability and durability because of injuries? Probably not. So Nicolas Pereira out, although he did show some good things with Inter Miami prior to his injury. Oscar Ustari, I'm hearing that he might be back and that he could take on a Sebastian Saha type role, where he eventually transitions to being the goalkeeper coach. That position, as of right now, is currently vacant. It's not vacant. Sorry.
No. Yep.
Javier Mascherano is bringing the goalkeeper coach, but Sebastian Saha has left the club. One of the originals from 2020. Not many left, Jose. Not many left. Speaking of originals, and this is something that I don't think should be glossed over, although there are more recognizable players from this. Felipe Valencia, man. He was the original. And that name does not sound familiar. Well, I completely understand. But he was the original Inter Miami homegrown player. The original homegrown signing of Colombian descent. And he never even came close to sniffing the field for the first team. Bounced around with the youth teams, occasionally with the second team, but in, 5 seasons? Yeah, 5 seasons, never came close to seeing the first team action. And I'm not picking on him, it's just interesting because he always kind of flew under the radar. We would see him at trainings, we would see him at the practices with the second team, and sometimes he would say hello. I don't really have anything to say for him as a person because I don't know him besides the hello and goodbye. But very strange, very strange. And maybe, it just didn't pan out. But to me, it reads of, and young players, they develop all in different ways. But to me, it reads of, it was just a PR move. Like maybe he was good. Maybe he was good at that younger age when he was 14, 15. But they just needed to bring somebody on board to say, look, we're signing young talent. And he just happened to be the best of that bunch, even maybe that bunch wasn't that great. And they brought him on just to say that they brought someone from the local roots, local area, and that he just never was really ever close to making the first team.
Right.
He just wasn't.
It was
wasn't
very, yeah, it was very early in the club as well. So who knows who made a decision, who was in charge?
Yeah, but they kept him this entire time. They've kept him this entire time.
If he was under contract, then you rather give him a chance and see if somehow he's able to perform. But there were so many other players from the academy that moved past him very quickly. So I guess a little bit of a unfortunate situation because it's a name that I guess we all knew and we never were.
We all knew, Jose. I think you're being generous there. I think you're flattering the Valencia name there because that we all knew. I don't think.
I'm thinking about Andrea.
You say Valencia to an Inter Miami fan, they're probably thinking of the Spanish club in La Liga. Tank says, Tank says here in the comment section, bigger knucklehead than Ascona. Okay, all right. Again, I don't know enough to have an opinion. I don't know. I'd have to do some more digging. No one ever really commented on him either. None of the coaches was ever like, "Oh, Felipe Valencia, he's close." Like,
it might be an interesting interview. I'll tell you that.
I think he'd be a fast. Honestly, that's why when the news came out, again, I don't want to make this like too long on Felipe Valencia, but when the news came out, it was literally, and that's why I brought it up here, one of my first thoughts. Like he'd be interesting to speak to see from his vantage point what the experience was like and what went wrong, what did not transpire for him. And I literally thought it, and I was going to tweet it, but I was like, if I tweet it, I'm going to be tipping off some other media members that are not part of the Miami Total Futbol Radio family, La Familia de Miami Total Futbol Radio, the show. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I kept it close to the vest, but I would bring it up here, of course. And, well, now we've talked about it. So something to chew on, something to see if we can get some insight on later on. But anyway, wrong screen. Well, who else here? Sergi Christoph, Franco Negri were two veteran players.
Right. Yeah.
That I think are capable of contributing to an MLS team. I think both are pretty talented, right? Not saying they are the next coming. Don't get the words twisted here. But I think they are good players. And I think they can find other homes in Major League Soccer. Sergi Christoph had some very, very good games in 2023, especially during that League's Cup run. I think for me, if I had to do the podium, he may have been, if not the best player, one of the top two in the League's Cup final. Inter Miami ended up winning via penalty shootout. He was that good. He had some very good games quietly. He's not a very outspoken or rah-rah guy because of his personality and the language barrier and, how he fit culturally into the whole thing. But I think he can find another home in MLS. And I believe you reported that is what his camp is looking for. His camp is looking to stay in the United States / Canada and stay in Major League Soccer. That is the initial idea. Whether it comes to pass or not, we'll see. If someone takes him at the salary cap or the budget hit that he's on, or if they can restructure that to his liking and to the team's liking. But I do think he's talented enough to be here. Franco Negri, another player who, under different circumstances, maybe he stays as a backup left back option for Jordi Alba. I'm sure he wants to get more playing time. He was surplus to requirements. For whatever reason, Tata Martino didn't really rate him. I think he's a damn good player. When he was healthy and he was bombarding down that wing, he was scoring goals. Not going to say he was to the Jordi Alba's level, but he was pretty damn good as a left back, as a left wing back. And I think some MLS team will pluck him, man. And I think he has the tools to do very, very well at another team. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I did report on Christoph. The goal for his camp is for him to find another home in MLS. As you know, the situation with him in Ukraine, going back there is not necessarily an option. He wants to stay in MLS. That's the goal, and there is some interest. There are people reaching out to his camp already, and I don't know. Maybe if he goes north, any other place that's not Florida, maybe he'll be able to acclimate a little bit faster. But I completely agree with you. I think he's a solid, he's a very good asset for any other MLS team. And then when it comes to Negri, I did talk to some people in his campus. Well, I did not tweet it out this, so it's the first time I'll say it here for Miami Total Futbol Radio.
No, roll the R's, brother. Roll the R's. We never hear you roll the R's.
All right. So he actually wanted to stay with Inter Miami. He wanted to stay with Inter Miami. He knew that
Argentina.
He knew that with Jordi Alba on the team, he didn't have a lot of opportunities to become a starter, but he wanted to compete. He wanted to remain. He was very comfortable here in South Florida. He liked the team, liked everybody around.
It's little Argentina. What's not to like? They have asados, mate, Argentinos everywhere. What's not to like? Messi.
Well, yeah. So he liked a lot of the stuff that he knew when he came over, and but the club they didn't want to. They just couldn't agree. They wanted to go some other way, to look for some other options. And so he had nothing but to, since he didn't have a player option. So he was just let go. But he was really, really thinking about, staying and continue to be a part of Inter Miami. And now they are in a similar situation as Cristobal, although he has, a little bit of a much brighter landscape, because he can actually go back to Argentina. He can very easily go and play for Godoy Cruz, which it was his former team, and they will be playing Sudamericana, if I'm not mistaken, next year. So it will not be a bad choice for him to go back. Although he also has a mindset in if there's another opportunity in MLS, he would rather stay in MLS than going back.
Sean Callahan says, I could see Negri at New York City FC or the New York Red Bulls. Maybe. I mean, I think he could fit on most teams. Look,
he could
fit on most teams.
Right. If you put Franco Negri behind Lewis Morgan on the left wing in New York Red Bulls, I think that's a very good combination. I kind of like that, and I don't drink, so but it's kind of funny. I agree with it.
It's fire. Look at this. Look at this Santa Claus. Killing it. Crash into the wall here. All right, moving on, because there was a lot of action or a lot of news action this week. So after that, we got the protected list for the MLS expansion draft, Jose. And this is it. This is who Inter Miami decided to protect. So these players were not eligible for selection by San Diego FC, which will join the league in 2025. Expansion team in Major League Soccer. That means there's an expansion draft. That draft allows San Diego FC to make 5 selections from across the league for their inaugural roster. Now, it's not just as straightforward, and I had this conversation with different colleagues publicly and privately on Twitter, on WhatsApp, about what the expansion draft is, because there's a lot of big names, right? Like Matias Rojas was on the list of eligible players to be selected. But it's not just as straightforward as, you just pick the most talented players. Usually, how it works with the expansion drafts, expansion teams just stockpile assets. It's not necessarily about players that might contribute right away, although there are exceptions. Sometimes that does happen. Normally, it's about stockpiling assets and getting cheap players. Players that are younger, that have more upside, that are not proven, even though if they're not as good as some of the proven options, but they're cheaper. All the same, this is what Inter Miami did in terms of the players it protected. So it protected Drake Callender, Jordi Alba, Thomas Aviles, David Martinez, Yannick Bright, Sergio Busquets, Federico Redondo, Robert Taylor, Leonardo Campana, Facundo Farias, Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez. Those players were not eligible to be taken by San Diego FC in the expansion draft. Neither were these 8 automatically protected players, which are all homegrown signings. If you're a homegrown player on a homegrown deal, you're not eligible to be selected. So for Inter Miami, those were Noah Allen, Israel Boatwright, Ian Frey, Tyler Hall, Benjamin Tremaski, Santiago Morales, David Ruiz, and Felipe Valencia, even though Felipe Valencia, as we just mentioned, is no longer with Inter Miami. So before the draft, we touched on it a little bit in our WhatsApp group. Leo Afonso, to me, would have been a player that fits that mold of young, cheap, upside.
Promising. Mm-hmm.
A player that could, contribute immediately, whether it's as a starter or as a bench player, however he would fit into the expansion plans. However, I had started getting some news, and I did tweet it out. CJ Dos Santos, Inter Miami's at one point number 2 goalkeeper, who ended up becoming the number 3 goalkeeper this year once Ustari arrived. He is off to San Diego FC, and not by the expansion draft, but via a trade. Inter Miami acquires $100,000 in 2025 general allocation money in exchange for goalkeeper CJ Dos Santos. The trade will be executed upon the reopening of the MLS trade window following the expansion draft, which already happened. He is officially a San Diego player, no longer in Inter Miami. This quote came from Raul Sanleji. We quote, "We'd like to thank CJ for his dedication and professionalism as an Inter Miami player. We wish him the best in the future." End quote. So there you go. These are the type of moves that can happen in an expansion draft. It's not just as black and white as picking the most talented players on the list. It's about stockpiling assets because of how MLS is structured. So, Jose, very quickly, I mean, not like we saw a whole lot of CJ Dos Santos here. I think he made 3 first-team appearances, if I'm not mistaken. But just your thoughts on San Diego taking him on board, and I think Inter Miami now having pretty much only Drake Callender on the books because Cole Jensen was axed. Oscar Ustari hasn't resigned yet.
This is the good old MLS expansion draft, other side of the MLS expansion draft, right? This is a situation where they probably, called into Miami and say, hey, you know what? I want Julian Gressel. And then Inter Miami said, what? You want Julian Gressel? No, let's make a deal. Who do you want so that you don't pick Julian Gressel? It's an interesting situation for me with the expansion draft. I think teams are looking into maybe getting some of the deals done rather than finding real players in the expansion draft. Because for me, what San Diego did last night was not very useful.
I mean, some of the players get flipped immediately to other teams that want those players, and they'll trade for those players to San Diego FC. So San Diego FC then stockpiles more assets like allocation money. So the expansion draft is not like in theory it should be a mechanism, a player acquisition mechanism to add 5 players to your inaugural roster that will contribute fairly quickly or right away, right? There should be role players at least on your team. But with MLS, because of the budget, because of the cap, it just does not work out that way. It's become something else. So what I imagine happened, is there's some, and this happens a lot in MLS, a lot. And it doesn't always come to the surface. It always doesn't come to light. And this is not inside information. This is just my supposition based on experience from covering this league a decade and a half. When you see some move that doesn't necessarily make sense, that kind of is like, where did that come from? Behind the scenes, there's some link. There's some connect the dots somewhere. Whether it's maybe the goalkeeper coach at San Diego FC has previously worked with CJ Dos Santos. That's just an example I'm throwing out there, not saying that's the case here. Or CJ Dos Santos' agent knows somebody that's in there in San Diego, and they think it could be a nice new setting for him. Things like that lead to moves like this, where they're kind of like, well, why would they take him? Why would they take that player, right? Because CJ Dos Santos, he's got some upside as a goalkeeper, but you don't expect him to go in there and be the number one this year. I mean, I don't think so.
Really
maybe he proves us wrong, but I don't know.
Yeah, we
that
really
definitely is
don't
part
know
of it.
how far can CJ Dos Santos go? It's a big question. I mean, it's really hard to tell because he didn't get a lot of opportunities, and even with the second team, it was Cole Jansen who started most of the games. So I don't know. It's just hopefully he gets a chance.
Now, with these trades, Jose, comes the understanding, the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, gentleman's agreement that, all right, we'll trade you this player. We'll take what you're giving us, but you can't take anybody from the draft. Like that. That's
Right.
the understanding. That's the gentleman's agreement, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
that
what I was trying to say. Yeah, I think that's the nature of these deals.
I think how you painted it didn't make sense because if San Diego wanted Julian Gressel, they could just be like, I'm taking Julian Gressel, and that's it. You're gonna have to pay me to take Julian Gressel or to not take Julian Gressel. You're gonna have to. I'm gonna pick him up, and if you want him, you're gonna have to trade me something to get him back. And that's happened before in expansion drafts. It's happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to say. I mean, I think this is a situation where Inter Miami is basically giving away CJ Dos Santos for 100,000 in GAM, which it's not that big a number, and maybe he would have gone for what 250. What do you think? If this was a regular trade, I doubted that he'll go for 100,000. So I think that's the expansion draft plays a role in this transaction, and Inter Miami, and Inter Miami, I think it's fine with it because they have Ustari and then they have some other options.
Well, they don't have him yet. They got to come to terms with him. But the idea is that he should.
Ustari will play for $10 if Messi asks him to play for $10.
Prajwal Subedi in the comment section. Inter Miami goalkeeper Nahuel Lozada thinking, all right, new goalkeeper. Yes, that is the rumored goalkeeper that Inter Miami is targeting this offseason. I think there's traction to that. Jose, very quickly. Inter Miami took part, even though it started in 2020, took part of the 2019 MLS expansion draft. Can you, or the listeners, or the viewers, especially if you're in the comment section, if you're live, if you're at home, pause this, think about it, and then see if you can get it. It's a little fun exercise, but we're not going to take too long here. Jose, in 2019, Inter Miami made 5 selections in its expansion draft. Can you name those 5 players?
No.
And I want the same for the listeners and the viewers in the comment section.
No, and I'm very thankful that I cannot, because
Can you name me some?
If I had that information fully on my brain, I can't remember the event. I'll tell you that. I can't remember.
No. Can you name me?
It was in Coral Gables, if I'm not mistaken. The expansion draft.
Can you name me? Can you name me a couple of the 5?
I don't name no players, but maybe if I really think through. No, I can't remember. Once you give me the names, I'll be like,
oh, yes. Yeah. Remember now, Inter Miami shared that expansion draft with Nashville SC, so there were 10 players taken in that draft, 5 apiece. Inter Miami had the first pick. They went with Ben Sweat, Alvis Powell, Lee Wynn, Luis Argudo, and Brian Meredith. Those were the 5 players that Inter Miami picked. Of those 5,
I think Lee was a good pick, though.
Of those 5, Lee Wynn contributed early on before he was then shipped out, left, or he was able to go on his own because the team just didn't want him. Alvis Powell
was bad, but he played as well.
Alvis Powell contributed at the beginning, was terrible. Went in timeout. He was put in timeout by Diego Alonso for the entire season and then reappeared at the end when injuries started hitting Inter Miami and COVID started hitting Inter Miami. Ben Sweat, as you mentioned, was the one player that got a lot of appearances for Inter Miami. Ben Sweat, the left back. Nice trip down memory lane. Nice trip. That's good trivia, man. That's good Inter Miami trivia. For you listeners, you viewers, you want to have a good time with some of your friends that are Inter Miami fans, ask them that question. Be like, I'll give you $100. You can name all 5. But if you can't name all 5 or even 3, then you got to pay me 20. Easy $20 for you. Great idea. All right, Jose. So we talked about the expansion draft. We talked about the players in and out. Well, another player that is out, Diego Gomez. Diego Gomez officially a Brighton and Hove Albion player. The move was announced. Was it Tuesday? I believe it was. Maybe Wednesday. Can't remember. But Inter Miami transfers the midfielder, the winger, the attacker to Brighton and Hove Albion. So he spent a year and a half with Inter Miami and very quickly took the next step in his career. He's off to England to play for the Premier League side. It's reportedly a $15 million transfer with add-ons. A big move for the Paraguayan international. And it reflects well, even though maybe you could say Tata Martino had a lot to do with it, it reflects well on Inter Miami and its ability to develop young South American talents. So what are your thoughts on him finally getting his move that had been rumored for 6 months?
I don't know if develop is the right word, because what exactly did Inter Miami develop on Diego Gomez in a few months? I mean, if anything, I think he showed that he can perform in positions where he shouldn't be playing. You know, I doubted that he'll be a winger in the Premier League, in Brighton Hove Albion. Which, by the way, I got pretty upset with myself because, you know, the day of the announcement, I got a heads up. So I could have broke the news like before everything happened, and I missed an email. So, you know, that is the absolute worst thing that
How
can
dare
happen
you?
to you.
How dare you miss an email
of those, giving you a heads up, this is going to happen, blah, 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 and you missed that email. Terrible on Jose. Shame on Jose. But
shame on Jose.
Yeah.
You have to up your megabytes download speed and upload speed there in that island that you reside on.
Yes. I think
Diego
he's going to do
Gomez,
really, really well.
I mean, he has the tools to do well. Seems pretty level-headed. I have questions about the fit culturally. You know, that usually can be a shock to the system,
but
especially if you're young.
He has company there.
Still,
you know,
it's
if you
still
have
not
one person that can really help you.
But it's still not the same, Jose. Look. Coming from, going desde Paraguay, right? From Paraguay, Latino America to Miami, you know, there's differences, but it's a smoother transition. You're able to make a smoother transition. Now you're going to England where the weather is shit. Yes, the football is elite. Don't get me wrong. They have Nando's there. I love Nando's, Peri. Shout out to Nando's. They only have a few of those in the United States, in like the Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Chicago, and if you go to Canada, Toronto area. If you ever get a chance to try it out, please do. It is amazing. You will thank me later. They have a lot of those in England. It's very good. Dude, culturally, it's a big change. And a young player could get homesick, a young player who might not speak the language and clearly has to learn the language or not. It's up to them. That's where I have questions. From a talent perspective, I have no question that he has what it takes to be able to do well in that league. But
that was his dream. You know, that was like he wanted to play in the Premier League. So I think, yes, there are going to be moments where he misses family, but at the same time, I'm sure family will be on the phone and letting him know, hey, we're fine. You know, this is your dream. Just go ahead, play.
It's not that simple. Oh, I see family on FaceTime and I feel much better. Like, you could feel very lonely in these places. Lonely.
They'll be the best. They'll be the best. They'll be the first. You know, his mom. You know, he should be the first one to tell him, like, this is your dream. Go ahead. And I'm sure he'll listen to mom. You know, I saw a video that was really amazing this week, and I tweeted it out as well about, you know, the house that he bought for his family, that he built for his family.
That was nice. Nice.
It was amazing. It was an amazing video. I think those are the things that Diego Gomez, you know, early on in his career outside of Paraguay, he was able to do that for his mom. I mean, what's coming up for Diego, I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great, and I'm sure they'll be able to find the right place for him to play, which I actually think he could be a very good central defensive midfielder, and I think if
No.
they find him a way to really become that box to box, I think he can be a solid asset for any team in the Premier League.
Absolutely not, Jose. I could not disagree with you more. Thomas here in the comment section says Brighton is full of South American players. Look, again, it'll help his transition that he's got a Paraguayan around him, got Latin American players around him. But the day to day, some of those Paraguayan, some of those South Americans might have families. They've got other things to attend to. They can't just be around all the time. Maybe somebody, puts their arm around Diego Gomez and helps him with the transition in a big way. You hope so, but you see plenty of cases where players go somewhere where it's culturally very, very different, and that impacts them. Like a player that is calm, settled, and happy off the field has a better chance of doing his best and showcasing his talents on the field. You've got all this stuff that you're worried about. That can weigh on you. That can weigh on you 100%.
Yeah.
And that we've seen plenty of cases of that.
Yes.
I hope that's not the case for him. I hope that's not the case.
No, I think I know what you're coming from, because it's not like we know him, but we have been closer than regular Inter Miami fans or even Paraguay fans to Diego Gomez. So we kind of know what his personality.
What's his personality?
Is.
What's his personality like from what we gathered in the time with him?
Quiet. Yeah, he fits the personality that would actually struggle in that situation. So I get it where you're coming from.
He's a quiet guy, shy, reserved, not like he walks into the room and he commands attention. Yeah. He's like he's that. No, he's a little more like maybe his time in England will develop a different side of him, and he'll be this much more. Next time we see him in un amistoso when Paraguay's playing whoever before the World Cup in 2026. You'll see a different Diego Gomez. Diego Gomez much more brimming with confidence and scoring goals in the Premier League. And this to start. I don't agree with you at all that he should be a defensive midfielder. I think as an interior, like a shuttler, an 8, or out on the I won't say on the wing, but out on a near a sideline where he can go at players at space. He's not Neymar with the ball at his feet, but he can go at players, use his explosiveness. He's got at least a couple of cheeky nutmegs that you've seen.
Really. I don't see him scoring in the Premier League.
He doesn't need to be a goal scorer. He could be a hard worker that recupera pelotas, wins balls back, gives you that work rate, that tireless engine that we saw here at Inter Miami. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops.
I think he's the first player. I think he's the first player that years from now, we'll remember covering him early on, and he'll go far. And this is obviously, the biggest transaction for Inter Miami by far. I don't think they've done something close to this before. So Diego Gomez would be the first player that we're actually, we actually covered him for a year and a half, was it? Yeah, a year and a half. Maybe.
What'd you think of his time here?
I think it was great. I think it was
the first season wasn't great. The first half season took some time
overall. Yeah, the first season he was,
integrating himself to a new team,
right? And he was playing at a different speed, and most of the time crashing, So he was. You could see that there was something there, but he
mostró chispazos that first half season. I think it was the game against the New York Red Bulls where he scores the goal, his first goal, I think. And then you were like, okay, you could see the flashes, but he didn't piece it together consistently. This year, he had some injury issues, which is something that he's going to have to be watchful of over there. And it's something for us to keep an eye on as well, because that's a very physical league. But he did have some injury issues, but this year is much more consistent, hard worker, ball winner, tireless, fearless. Inter Miami will lose a lot without him. And we can touch on later in the offseason how to go about replacing a player like him in the starting lineup. But yeah, Inter Miami will lose a big bit there.
Here's maybe my Island Jose comment of the night.
Oh, here we go.
I think Diego Gomez was a much better player without Messi on the field. I think when
Okay.
Messi was on the field, he was one of the players that actually, had to take a step back. And that's not the norm because usually if you play alongside Messi, he will, ease things out for you. He'll open up space. He'll do some other things that will help you, have more room and succeed and not having all the pressure. But I actually believe that he took a step back. Every time Messi was on the field, I kind of felt like, Diego Gomez feels like,
So opacaba,
where
so opacaba. Like he just
right.
wasn't as
There was this
involved. Wasn't as
right,
involved.
and there were situations where he could actually move forward and make a play, and then he needed to wait out because Messi was on the other side of the field and he was thinking about giving him the ball, giving Luis Suarez the ball. But when Messi was not on the field, he didn't care about Luis Suarez. He knew he needed to help the team offensively, and he succeeded most of the time. So maybe not an Ilan Jose take because it seems like you kind of agree with him.
I will go on. I will touch on that very quickly. Tank in the comment section says we can't replace him unless he has a little brother. Um, I'll say this about Diego Gomez. I think he was a player. Like first, I'd ask you this: is he stronger? Right? If you look at his profile as a player, right? You're drawing it up, or you're putting it on the chalkboard, or however you want to do it. Putting it into Chat GBT or the technology that Inter Miami uses. El perfil de Diego Gomez is he stronger on the defensive side, or is he stronger on the attacking side, or is he pretty equal across the board?
Um, From what we saw in Inter Miami, I think he was stronger on the attacking side, but I think his potential
Interesting.
is on the defensive side.
Interesting. Because I agree with Sean Callahan. Sean Callahan says stronger defensively. So I think based on what we saw, I think he's pretty even, right? But if I had to tilt it one way, I would go defensively. But I think it's pretty close. And that's why I think it's un interior. That's why I see him as an 8 or as an outside midfielder who's not necessarily tasked with creating so much as he's tasked with a lot of the dirty running, the ball winning. So I see him as a very two-way player, regardless of where he ends up being. But we'll see. We'll see how his career develops. Very quickly, Jose, because while Inter Miami loses something off the field, on the field with Diego Gomez, they gain an example that they're going to use undoubtedly when they're recruiting younger players in South America for the next 5-10 years. Hey, Diego Gomez is a player that we developed, and in a year and a half, we got him to Europe. The same could be done for you. The same could be done. You know that pitch is coming. That pitch is 100% coming. Whether it's 100% factual or whatever you want to call it, that pitch is coming. So Inter Miami gains something in that regard. Very quickly, before we wrap up Diego Gomez, and I want to share this. There's a reason why I said the previous quote as well. Everything's planned here on Miami Total Football Radio. Not everything, but a lot of things. Quote, the growth Diego has shown as a player since joining Inter Miami has been exponential. His contributions to the team, both in midfield and in attack, have been key for us through a historic period, said President of Football Operations, Raul Sanlehi. The club believed in his ability and potential from the beginning of the process, and everyone at the club is delighted to have aided in his development. We are excited to see Diego continue to represent us as he makes the jump to one of the world's best leagues in the English Premier League. End quote. Jose Armando, my friend, very quickly. Man, we have all offseason to talk about these things, although offseason is pretty much over in a month. But Raul Sanlehi has now been quoted in 2 different releases that I've brought up this week with regards to news items. No longer are we seeing the name of Chris Henderson, who has lost todo el protagonismo que tenía. All the protagonism or all the spotlight that he had here when he arrived at Inter Miami, that is gone. He's still around. He's still with Inter Miami. But he is no longer a focal point of the leadership at this organization. Chris Henderson has been reduced to I understand that, but it's time now to talk about it in a little more detail because now it's clear, right? Raul Sanlehi accompanied Jorge Mas when Tata Martino was let go. We have not seen Chris Henderson. Chris Henderson was normally on the sporting side, the person above whoever the head coach was that would address us after each season. And we have not seen Chris Henderson in a long time. I don't know if he's in the witness protection program. I don't know what has happened, but Chris Henderson, obviously, Raul Sanle, he's taken his spot while he pipped him. Maybe not while he pipped him. That's not a good sports reference because it doesn't really go with it. But Chris Henderson has lost todo protagonismo. You know, all the role that he had carved out with Inter Miami, that he had earned when he came over after Paul McDonough, that is gone. He has fallen down the pecking order, and he is in the shadows of at least somebody else now on the sporting side.
You say el contador, the accountant. That's what he is right now. The person that needs to make sure the numbers fit. That's about it. Nothing much. Not much other than that. Unfortunately, but I know, Chris is gonna find another job very quickly, very quickly. I think it's pretty clear now. The sporting director in Inter Miami is number 10, the captain, Lionel Messi. He makes the decisions on everything. Then I would say Mascherano might get a word here and there, and then. Raul Sanyehi, I don't think he's very influential, but it seems like his Jorge Mas best asset. When he's not available, then Raul will report everything to him.
Seems more politician than
yes,
sporting expert. But
would you demand from Raul to know exactly all the nuggets from
the ins and outs? No.
I mean, impossible. It's impossible. Would you demand for him to know every player on the scouting report for Inter Miami?
No, of course not. Of course not.
I mean,
so we can dive into that later in the offseason when we have maybe some less things to talk about, especially probably during Christmas and New Year's times. But the comment section, when I said
we'll get something from the club. I mean, Chris Henderson, I show some respect, at least a goodbye. We didn't get him,
but he's still here.
Extension.
He was the last thing that we know
he's
officially.
Not here anymore.
The last thing we know officially, right? And unless you have inside information, I don't have any inside information to share. But the last thing we know officially was during the press conference. I don't know if it was when Tata was leaving or when Mascherano came in. But anyway, when Jorge Mas was asked, when Tata was leaving, our friend Michelle Kaufman of the Miami Herald asked Jorge Mas about Chris Henderson. And his response was, yes, he's still here. He's still here. And Jorge kind of even was like, you've asked me about that before. He didn't chirp at her. He didn't bark at her, but he kind of was like, in a way kind of saying like, stop asking me. You've already asked me that. Which, to your credit, I mean, probably says that, I mean, Chris Henderson's future here is pretty much in doubt. And look, I said Chris Henderson's name. I bring up the topic in the comment section. It started going and going and going even more than it already was. Soccer Daddy eFootball, who I think this is the first time I've ever seen Soccer Daddy eFootball comment, says Henderson is on vacation. Steve Munoz says Henderson is playing as a consultant. Sean Callahan says Henderson has been on a month-to-month contract, making sure the MLS funding money is correct because Messi and his team don't get it. So I don't know if Sean Callahan is connected or not, but that seems very plausible to me, man. That seems very possible because we never got a real answer as to what Chris Henderson was getting a contract renewal when his contract was up. There was never an announcement. I would not be surprised. And again, I don't know if Sean Callahan's connected. Maybe he is. Maybe this is 100% factual right here, what I've just read.
Maybe it's Chris
Henderson.
Henderson.
Can't say that it is. Maybe. Chris Henderson's burner account. I don't know what the case is, but I could see it being something like that. 100%. 100%. Because clearly Chris Henderson serves a purpose. He serves a role. MLS has a lot of complex rules. You need someone that understands that. Besides Chris Henderson, there's no one in the leadership that knows the ins and outs.
If you have
Nicky Budulic isn't even
money, so I'll take it.
I don't think Nicky Budulic is around anymore. Because when Jorge Mas referenced Nicky Budulic, he said something, then when Nicky Budulic was around with us, he said something along those lines. So Nicky Budulic isn't even around anymore. So
and Tata said it as well.
Interesting.
He mentioned Nicky and Chris on the same line, and he actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, he said when they were here. Yeah. Something like that.
Jay Vasquez says, it was Henderson's birthday yesterday. Inter Miami normally sends out social media. Happy birthday. Didn't see anything from the team. Endo in the comment section says, que se diga Miami Total Futbol Buenas noches. So Endo joining us late. But yeah, it's very interesting. We'll get into more Chris Henderson. People want to know about, people like talking about Chris Henderson because the mystery of what's happened to him is something that we can talk about for a good while. But
Soon enough,
we will move along.
Georgia.
We will move along to some more information that happened this week. Man, we still got some. Man, we got like 3 more things to talk about. We're getting close on time. Very quickly. Some other news that came out this week, and it was breaking news reported by one of Miami Total Futbol Radio's own. You don't know I'm doing this, but Jose Armando reporting this week. And look, he's celebrating, but you can't see him because he's behind. Jose Armando reporting on Twitter, and follow him if you don't already, at JARM21. That's right, J, the letter J, ARM, ARM21. Jose, you got to do better with your Twitter handle. Like make it easier for people to find you. It sounds like JARM, harm. I know what you're going for, but come on. Anyway, the news is that Inter Miami will play Club America as part of the preseason tour, and it will be played in Las Vegas in January. So, Jose, tell me I'm going back to Las Vegas in January. Tell me we are going. We are backpacking. Let's go. Las Vegas, here we come. And I haven't even seen that stadium yet. Let's go. Let's go.
It's gonna be a big event. It's gonna be huge. And America actually right now they are playing the first leg of the final. So promoters are obviously hoping for an America win so that they will have. There you go. Is that
Las Vegas Magnets, baby? Las Vegas Magnets. Let's go.
Is that the one that you brought us, or you didn't brought us a magnet?
I did bring you one. Yes, actually, this is your magnet, and I never gave it to you guys when I gave Andrea the international magnets. I did not give her Las Vegas magnet. This is yours.
There you go. All right. So yeah, it's supposed to be a huge event. They're hoping for America to win the final against Monterrey. They'll be back champions in Liga MX. So yeah, I mean that's the matchup that CONCACAF Champions is waiting for. That's the matchup that MLS and Liga MX are waiting for in Leagues Cup. Guess what? Promoters found their way to make it happen before it becomes an official match, and they're obviously two of the biggest names in North America right now. Not historically because Inter Miami is only 5 years old, but with Messi right now, and America winning back-to-back championships in Mexico, I think it's as big as it gets.
Steve Munoz has a warm-up to the actual CONCACAF Champions Cup final. Vamos! ! Look, it should be a match that gets a lot of butts in seats, assuming tickets aren't exorbitant, because there's a lot of Mexicans, a lot of Club America fans on the West Coast. So a trip to Las Vegas, a road trip, I can sell that easily to the missus here. I can tell the girlfriend, look, babe, I'm sorry. I've got to go to Las Vegas. I've got to go cover a game. I would love to take you, but this is just work only this time. And then you and I will find ourselves at the Bellagio. You will be putting 50 on black while I sip a vodka pineapple. Yes, let's go. Actually, I'm a big Cosmopolitan person. Love the Cosmopolitan. The balconies, only casino, only hotel. If you actually end up making this trip and it's within your budget, I strongly suggest you stay at the Cosmopolitan because there's the only hotel, the only casino in Las Vegas that has balconies. And the view, if you get facing the fountain and the strip, is phenomenal, especially at night. Incredible. Highly, highly recommend it. I've done it the last 2 times we've gone to Vegas. And I will do it when I live with Jose there, and we will pose for a picture. Come on, Jose. Although Inter Miami is going to play this game on the day that the U.S. men's national team plays a friendly against Venezuela at Chase Stadium here in Fort Lauderdale. Right. Come on, schedule makers. Come on.
Yes.
Yeah, we won't be able to cover both. Maybe we'll have to divide us. One will go there, one will go here. I'm going to Vegas. I call Vegas. Anyway, all right, continuing on, because speaking of matchups regarding teams in Mexico, Inter Miami avoided a Mexican team and avoided a Central American team from CONCACAF when the CONCACAF Champions Cup draw took place earlier this week. They will play Sporting Kansas City in the first round. Jose, here's the overall draw for the knockout rounds of this tournament. And the first round lacks any real match. It's like, ooh, that's a good matchup, right? Like the first round, not a great draw in terms of neutrals perspective and a juicy matchup. But your thoughts for Inter Miami? Because I know overall you weren't happy with the draw, and how it came about.
It's boring. I mean, for us, it's boring because we're basically gonna have another MLS matchup for the first, and if they're able to move on for the third round as well, because the first round against Sporting Kansas City, like you mentioned, the second round against Cavalier from Jamaica. Cavalier, I've seen Cavalier play, but they struggle. They might put a good showing at home. They'll be playing at the National Stadium. They call it the Office in Kingston. So that's going to be a huge event, and they might perform there. But then they're going to come to the States. They might not even win the first game, and then they come to the States against, whether it's Inter Miami or Sporting Kansas City, and then they struggle for some reason when they come here. So, yeah, Cavalier's not going to be a problem. And then I think it's Columbus or LAFC or Colorado. So another MLS matchup in the quarterfinals. We would actually have to wait all the way to the semifinals to actually have an interesting matchup, whether it's against Saprissa or Monterrey or Pumas.
Alajuelense.
Or Alajuelense. Alajuelense could be a good matchup as well. But, that's so far ahead.
We're not going to get that, like, juicy Central American road game where maybe there's a hostile crowd. We're not going to see that for a long time, if it happens at all.
Attendance is going to be terrible, so there's not going to be excitement. When we had Cruz Azul or Monterrey, previously Cruz Azul for Leagues Cup and then Monterrey for CONCACAF Champions, we had, colleagues coming from overseas. You can sense something special happening, a special tournament. I don't think we're going to get that. I don't think anybody covering Sporting Kansas City is going to travel for those matches. I doubt it that any of us are going to travel for the Sporting Kansas City match away.
I'm not going to Kansas City. They have good barbecue, but I'm not going to Kansas City. I will save my my one permission slip for Las Vegas. I don't know if I'm going to go to Kansas City and Las Vegas. I'd rather go to Las Vegas for the friendly. Yes, I'd rather go to Las Vegas for friendly.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a boring draw for us, at least, covering the team. That's when I'm saying us, it's covering the team. For us covering. But, it is what it is. I guess, on the flip side and this for the fans, it's a very good draw because it's very manageable. You basically have to win one tough series in the semifinals, and then if you do really well and you go according to plan, then you might be able even to host the final in South Florida on June 1st. So
yeah, let's not get carried away. Last time we thought Inter Miami could host the final, and fell apart very, very quickly. The wheels fell off. And by the way, I was just joking about asking for permission. I will be at both. I wear the pants in this relationship. All right. All right.
I do have to ask for permission. I'm not ashamed.
Well, as long as you bring her magnets, she'll be happy. For Inter Miami, yes, a manageable draw. Sporting Kansas City. I mean, if they lose that, if they get knocked out, it's a complete failure. They should make it deep into this tournament, and the path is there. Just like it was for MLS Cup, the path is there, right? When we saw Cincinnati get knocked out, we saw Columbus get knocked out. The path is there for Inter Miami to make a deep run, potentially make the final. Now, of course, what we see on the outside, what's on paper, you got to actually play these games and put in the effort and get the goals and get the wins. But the path is easier than it could have.
It would be a terrible start for Mascherano if Inter Miami doesn't make it to the semifinals.
And that's what I'm saying. The path for Mascherano is I'm not saying it's the easiest thing. I'm not saying Inter Miami should cakewalk, but it's easier. It's much easier than it could have been. So that will help him as he starts his first head coaching gig at the club level.
And not only because they're going to be playing an MLS team, but because they're going to be playing a team right, under the same circumstances. Both teams are going to be in preseason. This might have been a preseason match. It could be very easily something that could have worked in early February. A closed doors match between Sporting Kansas City and Inter Miami, because Sporting Kansas City normally comes to Florida for preseason. So, there's really no excuse.
Steve Munoz says, why wouldn't you guys go to KC? It's still an important tournament. We badly want to win. I'm just kidding, Steve. I'll go to KC. I'll be there. I'll be having some barbecue. I'll be having listen, I went to KC, I think, twice in 1 year in 2014. I went for the All-Star game, and then MLS Cup happened to be there. It was probably the coldest, or if not one of the coldest days in my freaking life. Woke up to play in the media game that morning. It was like 4 degrees when I woke up, sitting in the outdoor media tribune that they put together. Like I tried to layer up as much as I possibly could because of how damn cold it was, and I was a Floridian, which didn't have winter gear. And I had hand warmers. I was cold, man. I was cold. But I like KC, and the airport's easy.
Yeah, but you're not going. You're not going.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
You're not going.
Stop that. Stop. You don't know that.
Going to Kansas City for the first round of the CONCACAF Champions.
You don't know that. You don't know that. What I do know is that I will be in Las Vegas. What I do know is that I will be in Las Vegas. That's what I know, baby. That's what I know. All right. Very quickly, hosted to wrap up the show. We're going to push up on the hour and 10 here, but very, very quickly, the last talking point is on Thursday. We saw, it was unveiled. Inter Miami showcased its new away jersey for 2025. Remember, it was reported that Inter Miami would get a new home and a new away jersey next season, which is not the norm. Normally, it's only one of the two jerseys that gets renewed, but next year they are getting one of each. This is what it looks like. Black and dark gray with the Royal Caribbean logo, big Adidas logo, monochromatic crest. So it's all pink for those of you that are not watching or instead listening after the fact. This is Lionel Messi wearing it. I will show you a video that I took today. I went to Chase Stadium. I got video footage, content of the jersey up close and personal. I will say, for those of you, because they have the authentic version out and they have the replica. So it depends on which one you tend to go for. But if you go for the authentic one, it looks like it runs pretty snug. Like it runs pretty tight. So take that into account as you're shopping, if you are shopping. But I got a better look at it up close and personal here at the store. So let's take a look here.
Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right, so there was an up-close personal look. If you're listening to this, you're not watching it after the fact, then that's probably 45 seconds that were pretty boring for you because there was no sound of pretty much anything besides people talking in the background. Very quickly, and I'm speaking faster here because we're running short on time. I don't know if you caught the details, Jose, but the M on the bottom left part of the jersey and the Freedom to Dream that's written in black on the back part of the collar, the outline is in pink. So it does this kind of cool pinkish neon look thing, like those cars that you see maybe in Miami that are, you look at them from one angle, they're one color, then you look at them, I forget what the term is for that, but look at them from another angle, it's a different color. That's what that kind of gives you an image of, or that's what I noticed when I looked at the jersey. Other than that, for me personally, if I have to rate it, I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Not a fan of monochromatic crests, which I've already made clear. And I think it's very, very simple. Come on, man. Come on, Adidas. Do a little bit more, man. I don't need crazy designs, but throw a little more pink on there. let's get some more pink on these black jerseys, man. Like
It's not
make
better
it
than what
pop.
they
It
have
doesn't
right now.
pop.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't pop. It's more of the same. Like this one had a little more pink, right? This one had a little more pink on the sides, had a little more pink at the bottom. Like that looked a little bit better. I still
If you
think they could
take
do a little bit more.
away,
And
yeah, if you take away, some of the elements, it looks like a referee jersey for the Sunday League, right? I mean, I think US had something similar, but I still don't think it's. I
it's
don't think
called the
it's.
Fortitude. They went away. It's called Fortitude. Fortitude.
I don't know.
Fortitude.
I
Yeah, I
give it
agree.
a
I think they could
6.
do a little bit more.
Pablo,
I
you're
give it a
highly. No, you give it a
I give it a
5.
5 out of 10. I give it a 5 out of 10. I don't think
I'll
it's
give it a 6.
terrible, but I think it's just too bland. I think they could do more. You know what would make it, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, and I hope at some point they listen to this constructive criticism. If you're going to do anything, don't make it the X and O's that I have as suggestions at any point. Make it this. Match that black jersey or whatever black away jersey that you put together with pink shorts. Do the black and pink combo. Do that. I want to see that. Black, pink, and black socks. I think that will look phenomenal. The black and black and black, like, come on, man. Come on. Black, pink shorts, I think it would look great. Even if you just do it for a game or two, I think it would look amazing.
I don't.
All right, Jose.
Can they do? I don't think they
No?
can do that. But
Yes, they
we're
can.
gonna
Why
have to
not?
go through the
Plenty of
rules.
teams do that. Plenty of teams
No.
do, like, about 10, 15 years ago, very quickly, 10, 15 years ago, FIFA went in a very monochromatic look. So teams were just wearing all of one color. They thought it was good for TV watching purposes.
TV.
But
Yeah.
they've gotten away from that in the last few years. They've gotten back to allowing teams to wear shorts that contrast their jerseys and that are part of the color scheme, which I think always not only looks better to me, unless there's some very jarring color combos out there. I don't only think it looks better, it gives your team more of an identity. So when you're watching them on TV, you can easily distinguish. If you saw black and pink, you're going to be like, that's Inter Miami. If you see all black with a little bit of pink, you might be like, well, I don't really know what that is. Is that Inter Miami or is that like some team wearing a third jersey that has pink on it? Like it's not as easily distinguishable. But anyway, very quickly, diving off the jerseys, our friends over at the Battered Herons podcast put this out earlier today. And I don't know if it's their photo or if they got it from somewhere else, but apparently this is the replica jersey of the new home jersey for 2025. Apparently. Take a good look at it. Vertical lines, very Argentina-like.
Right. Yeah.
Very Argentina-like, though it's pink with a different shade of pink with like that salmon pink from this last jersey. It's got the Argentina design. The last jersey, if you look back at the black jersey, has the Barcelona design, right? When they did a little half and half was blue and half was red, right? If you remember that jersey from Barcelona when Messi was there. You remember that one, Jose, when it was half blue and half red?
Yes.
So this one kind of resembles that. This one kind of resembles Argentina. So, I mean, I can't confirm that this is the jersey, but looks pretty on point. I mean, this looks like a real picture, right? Again, I don't know where Battered Herons got the photo from. I don't know if they took it, if they were sent it, if they found it. Don't know. Whatever the case is, if this is a real photo, then this would make sense, yes. And I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting look. I think I would give that a better rating than I would give the black one.
Yeah, we obviously have to see it, in full, just like we saw that one today. But yeah, it looks better, I guess. I don't
know. Looks better, I guess. Everything's about Messi. All right, Jose. We've talked about a lot of things. We've gone a little bit past an hour and 10, but I think we did pretty good. So we will leave it there. I think we will be back next week. I think so. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe there's not much to talk about. Maybe there is. Maybe there's a trade. Maybe there's a signing. Either way, maybe we can come back and talk more Chris Henderson. People seem to really like that. So we'll see. But I think we'll be back next week before Christmas to at least wish everybody a happy holidays and maybe sink our teeth into some more Inter Miami things that we can't normally spend a lot of time on. Maybe we'll get Felipe Valencia on.
Yes. No, but we're still due for our predictions. We never did the prediction show. So maybe a small section of the next pod.
maybe we can start planning the road trip to Las Vegas.
Maybe we need a sponsor, everybody. So
In and
make
Out,
it happen.
In and Out in Las Vegas. Oh, In and Out and Egg Slut. Egg Slut is amazing in the Cosmopolitan. Great breakfast place. Oof, expensive, but very,
You're
very
looking
good.
for
Very, very
places
good.
to spend more money out of the budget. We're looking for sponsors. Push for sponsors. We need sponsors.
Listen, Las Vegas. Las Vegas. I'm sponsoring Las Vegas, man. Forget that. We're gonna get sponsors. No, I'm going to sponsor Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas. I love the lights. I love the whole thing. It's the vibe. I just like it. I just like it. All right. So that will do it for this week's show. I will be at SantaCon wearing this ugly sweater this weekend. If you're out for SantaCon and you see this thing,
What is that?
it's me. So I'll be out there. SantaCon is like a yearly event. First time I ever did it was in New York. It's not as big in South Florida, but it's still
Like
a thing.
Santa's
People dress
Enchanted
up as
Forest?
no, it's like a bar crawl, bar type of thing, pub crawl type of thing. But people dress up like for Halloween. People dress up. It's like people dress up as Santa Clauses with the hats. Girls dress up with the
Oh,
reindeer
and they
ears.
go like as Rudolph. and
Elves,
stuff like that.
gnomes, yeah, stuff like that. It's
The
fun.
Grinch.
Maybe you see a
Okay.
Grinch. Maybe. That would definitely be you if you got dressed up and drank. But
Why? I love Christmas. Christmas, my birthday is 4 days before Christmas, so I love Christmas.
there we go. That's right. We have to be back next week to wish you a happy birthday and sing Feliz Cumpleaños to you. So, all right, we'll leave it there. Thank you to everyone in the comment section for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. If you don't put comments in the comment section, thank you for listening to this after the fact. If you listen to this after the fact, we wish Andrea good health. We hope she gets back to a speedy recovery and gets back to 100%. We need her next week to wish you a happy birthday and to talk about Las Vegas. So, Andrea, get better. We will talk to you guys again next week. We're signing off here from Mi Amigo del Futbol Radio. We'll talk to you guys again next week.